defiant on digital assets and sound money and the whole ecosystem that is the Internet of Value.
The U.S. Treasury owned no gold at all. All the gold that was left in Fort Knox was now owned by the Federal Reserve, a group of private bankers, as collateral against the national debt. The truth of the matter is that never before has so much money been stolen from the hands of the general public and put into the hands of a small group of private investors.
The powers of financial capitalism had a far-reaching plan. Nothing less than to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. This system was to be controlled in a feudalistic fashion by the central banks of the world, acting in concert by secret agreements arrived at in frequent meetings and conferences. The apex of the system was to be the Bank for International Settlements in Bâle, Switzerland, a private bank owned and controlled by the world central banks, which were themselves private corporations.
In cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also we will have the technology to enforce that.
Imagine you woke up one day to find out your bank account has just been wiped out. Your entire life savings have been evaporated, but not because some anonymous fraudster has stolen it. It happened because the very banking institution the regulators told you was unquestionably strong has failed. The bank has taken your deposit and converted it into shares to ensure its own survival. You now own those shares, but you've taken up more risk than you signed up for, and there's no promise that those shares won't become absolutely worthless. With the global markets in turmoil right now, this scenario is becoming more and more likely, and this is called bank bailing in your money. If you think this is illegal, impossible, or will never happen, think again. This has happened in Cyprus, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the BIS, the Bank of International Settlements, has all passed legislation to make this completely legal. Because listen to this, Congress passed the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Act of January 2010, which eliminated the option of bank bailouts but opened the door for bank bail-ins. So you know how ridiculous that is? People were outraged from the bailouts in 2008. So the government's like, okay, look, you're outraged from us wasting your taxpayer money. So you know what? We've got a better idea. We'll just take your money out of your bank account instead. Problem, reaction, solution. And for those quite not sure what a bail-in is, a bail-in helps a financial institution on the brink of failure by requiring the cancellation of debts owed to creditors and depositors. Bail-ins have been considered across the globe to help mitigate the burden on taxpayers as a result of bank bailouts. So again, people, their excuse for this legislation is completely ridiculous. They're saying, look, we don't want to hurt the taxpayers, so what we're going to do is just take the average American, average Australian, European's money instead. But people, I'm sure you already know about these bank bail-in laws, but there's a new development. There's more and more pressure on the banks right now from the Bank of International Settlements, the BIS. This is like the central bank for the central banks. And remember, these are not federal organizations. Nobody elected these people. These are private institutions. Listen to this. The Bank of International Settlements, BIS, has also spoken openly about how bail-ins can be used with a focus on integrations in the European Union. In these scenarios, bail-ins can be used in cases wherein a full government bailout is unlikely. What's going on, everyone? I thought this was just some crazy conspiracy theory. Well, they're not trying to hide it anymore. They're becoming more and more open about their plan, probably because what's going to happen is people won't be able to take out their money from their bank account even if they want to during the next crisis. And I guess this is why they're also really pushing for CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, because then you won't even be able to take the money out of your bank account if you wanted to.
The BIS is wholly owned by 63 other central banks, one of which is the Bank of England. But what surprised me is that I couldn't find much mention of this in mainstream press. Wonder why not? Because a statutory instrument was issued in the last few days to put the BIS, its governors and staff on the immunity from prosecution list. And I also managed to find a draft treaty between the UK and BIS. Yes, a draft treaty. And the treaty talks about immunity and says the bank and its staff will pay no tax here, will be immune from prosecution, and the UK shall guarantee to the BIS, including its BISIH London Centre, the autonomy and freedom of action necessary to carry out its official activities. And also, the premises shall be inviolable. No official of the UK or person exercising any public authority, whether administrative, judicial, military or police, shall enter the premises unless permission to do so has been given by the General Manager of the BIS, the Deputy General Manager of the BIS, the head of the BISIH London Centre, or their duly authorised representative notified to the Foreign and Commonwealth Development Office Protocol.
Now, recently, a lot of the central banks in the world have been buying gold. In fact, they've been buying more gold now in the last 12 months than probably any time since the early 70s. Why are central banks buying so much gold, and particularly the Russians?
Each central bank has a little bit of their own narrative. The Russians obviously are afraid that dependency on the US dollar could make them vulnerable. The Chinese are also buying lots of gold. But interestingly enough, so too are the Indians and a number of other countries. Most central bankers want to weaken their currencies, and that usually means printing, figuratively or literally. Gold is the only currency that can't be printed. Ray Dalio made a very good comment, I think, very succinct, rational.
He's the head of Bridgewater, very successful hedge fund.
And hyper-rational, as he would say. And he said, the case for gold, when you strip away the emotion, is that it's just another currency. And those who don't understand what gold means either don't understand the history of it, or don't understand the markets, and that everyone should just own some gold as you would own any other currency.
You've got a point of view. It's an important point of view that a lot of people want to hear. But on the other side, there are economists, like the Bank of International Settlement just did this big report this past weekend and said, not so fast. Centralized fiat currency has worked. It hasn't. I'm going to agree with you. It hasn't worked perfectly. I mean, we've had a lot of crises. We've had a lot of bank runs. We've had a lot of failures, and central bankers don't get it right on a regular basis. But what they're saying is that right now the asset is too volatile in value. I'm just focusing on one thing, to really be a true medium of exchange and a unit of account.
Let me hit the volatile thing. Okay, the way I look at it is when people say, isn't Bitcoin really volatile? I think, oh yeah, this is great. One Bitcoin is still worth one Bitcoin. It's just all these other currencies are volatile as they disappear from view. I mean, they're in panic mode. This is panic mode. You're seeing it go way up, way down, way up, way down. It's panic mode because they see that there's a better way to do things, and that continues to happen. Go buy a ledger or one of these like USB things. Plug it in, download some cryptocurrency, Bitcoin or whatever else you want to download, and then pull it off, and then look at it, and then look up at that big bank building with all those fancy people with their suits on that are using your money, and look back at your USB kind of ledger thing here, and then look back at that bank and realize that you are going to have complete control over your money, and you're not going to be throwing it into a bank where it gets manipulated and moved and whatever happens to it, and run on or politically whipped or whatever. And suddenly you've got your money. And if you want to take that money to another country, you take it down. You plug that thing in, you take it right down. It's so simple.
Right now, about 95% of Bitcoin trading is on custodial wallets on Coinbase or Kraken or Gemini and so forth. So that's not a particularly safe place. In fact, would you agree it's not safer than a bank?
No, the banks are hacked constantly, and people are playing whack-a-mole trying to keep the hackers away from Wells Fargo.
Coinbase is hacked constantly as well.
But the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain has never been hacked.
Knock
on wood. Never been hacked.
If you're facing an existential threat like Ukraine is today, then you don't have time to wait around for 3 days for a bank to clear your transaction. So today, it's very clear that these cryptocurrencies serve an important role in the global economy. And I think that we should expect not just a digital dollar, but digital national currencies more broadly as governments try to get in on the game here.
I would say this to everybody who's watching this. This economic crisis is like a cancer. If you just wait and wait thinking this is going to go away, just like a cancer, it's going to grow and it's going to be too late. What I would say to everybody is get prepared. This is not a time right now to wishful thinking the government is going to sort things out. The governments don't rule the world. Goldman Sachs rules the world. Goldman Sachs does not care about this rescue package, neither does the big funds.
And then this is pretty cool. So 26 Goldman Sachs alumni who run the world. This is wild. So Goldman Sachs basically runs the world. We know BlackRock runs the world. Okay. We know all these companies are massive. Okay. At home, Mnuchin will be the third treasury to emerge from Goldman Sachs. The Fed, William Dudley, president of New York Fed, a vice chair, Federal Open Markets Committee, hails from Goldman Sachs. Congress, Jim Himes, a Democrat representative of Connecticut's 4th District, hailed from Goldman Sachs. Okay. Washington, miscellaneous, Joshua Bolten, position executive director of legal and government affairs at Goldman Sachs. Gary Gensler was a star banker at Goldman Sachs. It just goes on and on. Reuben Jeffrey, Goldman Sachs partner. Central banks, ECB head Mario, okay, would that be the European Union, I think, worked for Goldman Sachs. It just goes on and on. Draghi claimed he worked for Goldman Sachs. Governments, Malcolm Turnbull, a former Goldman Sachs. I'm just going through. I'm not going to go through all 26. It just goes on and on. 26 people deep into the government spread across your ecosystem that are attached to Goldman Sachs.
And if you mentioned Jamie Dimon, so let's bring it back to Jamie and JP Morgan. What do you think is going to be the thing that they will have to change the most or lose market share and somebody else is going to do better, faster, serve their clients better than JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs can do?
You can just hear the bankers panicking right now.
But what
feel the panic in their voices.
What's the line
but here's
of business that is most
here's what always happens. The first thing that happens is they try to go, oh, it's nothing. And they did that. I mean, that's with every new industry, every new technology comes along, the powers that be, the incumbents, the status quo, all say, it's nothing. Don't ignore the man behind the curtain. This is nothing. And then all of a sudden it's too big to get in there. They're going, oh my God, I got to face this thing. And then they all line up and they wrap their arms together and they say, we're not letting this happen. And then it keeps going. And then they say, okay, well, let's sue them. or let's go get the government.
There's another thing
Or-
they do. They adopt the technology. I think.
No,
I think
that's
a
at
lot
the
of-
end.
They will adopt
No,
this technology.
no, this is the last thing they do. No,
Yeah, it's like
it's
the
after.
seven
It's
stages of
after.
grief, I
Right.
know.
It's after the press planting. They plant the press stories. They put out lawsuits. They create as much of a fuss as possible. They try to get their government friends involved, and then they go, "Oh God, this thing's happening." And then they go, okay, what are we going to do? How do we get it? So then they either make or buy, as all great companies do. They go, am I going to make this or am I going to buy it? Am I going to make an exchange, or am I going to make a new kind of wallet? Am I going to bring it in so my clients can use this?